Hello and welcome to the Quilling Quarter, dedicated to the art of papercraft. My name is Charlotte. At the start of February 2021, I visited quilling artist and Sydney Quillers Group founder, Wendy Verity. We spoke about her incredible 30-year quilling career, how she became a founder of the Sydney Quillers Group, and her love of feathers. It was a really fun conversation and I really enjoyed chatting with Wendy. Hope you enjoy this interview and seeing some of Wendy's beautiful work and the stories behind them. Enjoy. So, how are you going?
Oh, good, thank you.
How was it getting all the pieces ready? You said
Quite exciting actually, because it's all stored away and I only bring out a few pieces every now and then, you know, so to show people if they're interested, to pull them all out and to present them like that, I was like, oh, I am a very clever girl, aren't I?
So it was a bit of like a trip down memory lane.
Oh, definitely, definitely. From my very, very first prize-winning piece to my accreditation, we're looking at probably about 30 years of gradual, quilling.
Nice. So how did you get into quilling? Like, how did you discover it?
My mother-in-law bought me a tiny little kit that was a child's beginner kit for quilling. One Christmas she bought me it and I made up what was in the kit. And then I had leftover paper and I thought, oh, I'm going to keep using that paper and I found that I just loved it. So I kept going with it and probably about a year after that, I entered the Easter show and won first prize.
Wow. So how old were you when you got the kit, roughly?
Oh, in my 20s.
Wow.
In my 20s, yeah, I wasn't a child.
Okay.
So, yeah, I did a lot of crafts, many, many different crafts. And I'd always loved card making. I love making Christmas cards and sending them out and birthday cards. So it was really nice to bring something else into a different dimension into my card making. Quilling just sort of bit me.
Wow.
And stayed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so what was your first piece that one that you had where you won first prize?
The box. I actually made this from, it's just a paper mache box, okay, painted with the lattice work is quilling strips and then painted over the top of that as well. But I researched all the different flowers from a gardening book that I had.
Yeah.
So I just tried to make flowers that looked a little bit like what the flowers were in the book. So, and it was just meant to be just a cottage garden, but this actually won first prize and in the Showcase of Excellence.
Well done.
The first year I entered the Easter show. Wow. So yeah, I was quite happy with that.
So if the bug already hadn't bit, like getting that, I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at it.
Exactly, yeah. So, but way back in those days, you didn't actually have a lot of patterns around, so it was like a bit of self-discovery, you know, like how am I going to make that shape out of a two-dimensional piece of paper?
Yeah.
It was a lot of research at libraries and that's when I discovered the Quillers Guild and all this sort of stuff. So yeah.
How did you think about how to do the roses or the fringing? Like, how did you come up with those sort of ideas?
I just have this innate thing that I see shapes within things.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably a little bit weird, but no, I just sort of look at things and think, oh, that's fluffy, so fringing would be really good for that. Or I don't know that the roses actually look too much like real roses, but you know, that's quilling roses for you. But the little forget-me-nots, they're all little petals. I just have this way of looking at shapes. I guess a lot of artistic people do. That's the main reason why I kept going.
That's really
with
cool.
Quilling, yeah.
And so I think I remember you mentioning a while back that you were an interior decorator.
Yes.
Were you already working as an interior decorator?
Not then.
Oh, okay.
Not then, no. Back then I was on maternity leave from an insurance job.
Okay.
So after that, I didn't go back to the insurance. I started teaching at night school at a local WEA or a community college. And I did that for about 15 years. So it was just teaching at night different crafts and teaching quilling.
Oh, wow.
I sort of progressed and then I had to go into hospital for an operation that was going to have a 6-week recuperation where I couldn't do anything. So I thought, what can I do in that 6 weeks? So I did an interior design course.
Really?
And then a girlfriend of mine she was working for an interior design and she said, we're looking for a junior, in my 50s, a junior. But anyway, so that's when I started in interior design.
So your quilling kind of fed into your interior design, not the other way around.
Yeah. But I think if you've got a basic knowledge of shape, form, colour, interior design just comes naturally. You know, so yeah, it's one of those sort of just progressions in life that happened.
Amazing.
Now I'm just retired, so I can do whatever I like.
And keep making all these beautiful pieces. I remember you sent one of the pieces where you said you got inspiration from William Morris. Is that like a London, when you went to London, you went to the V&A, was that trip?
Yeah. William Morris is an artist who did a lot of wallpaper designs. That's an inspiration from William Morris. That's one of his wallpapers behind. So I've just quilled on top of it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you saw it was it at the V&A Museum?
Yeah. I actually bought a calendar, and that's one of the pages in the calendar behind it. Yeah. So you get quite resourceful when you do quilling. You look for inspiration from all other places, you know. So I was really, really inspired by the shapes and the designs that he did. So I was going to do a whole collection because I loved the calendar. So I was going to, when I got the calendar, I was going to do one for every, the 12 months, and I only did 2.
Because I can see that would take like a long time, like that you can't just bust something out like that quickly.
No, I can't, because I do a lot of things in the traditional way, whereas I see quillers now and they seem to bust things out very, very quickly. And I'm like, how on earth do you do that? Because that would take me probably 2 or 3 days, whereas these people who make cards and sell them, they're making like hundreds of cards in 2 days, and I just don't know how they do it. My fingers just can't physically work that fast. Yeah. So I'm a bit of a traditionalist, really, when it comes to doing quilling.
Yeah, and I think that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of William Morris until you...
Oh, okay, yeah, that was quite an experience, William Morris. Seeing the William Morris wallpapers, but also being invited to go behind the scenes to the archives and seeing all the antique quilling cabinets and mirrors and fire screens and that sort of stuff. I had my 2 children who were under 10 at the time, and I didn't have any, because it was in London, I had no one to look after them. Yeah. So I asked permission for them to come as well.
Oh, wow.
So I think they might have been the only under 10-year-olds that have ever been behind the scenes in the V&A.
Wow. So was that just like a trip for fun, or were you there like to see the...
My husband was in London for work.
Oh, okay.
We all went along and made it a family holiday on the end. So, but while he was at work, I was doing all these, museums and sightseeing and stuff with the children. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was good fun.
And so you mentioned your very first competition piece. Did that sort of, like you meant, and also you got the bug for quilling, did that sort of lead naturally on to just wanting to enter more and more competitions? Like, can you talk us through, like...
I did. I've entered into the Castle Hill show as well, and also the Eka at Brisbane.
Oh, yeah. Because
I was doing a lot of style that other people weren't doing. And I was like, well, why aren't other people doing the same as me? Because I was sort of doing more 3-dimensional things, whereas a lot of people did flat things, even though like the William Morris is a flat design. It's part of it's risen up so that it doesn't look like a flat design. I just progressively was seeking out new ways to do things, and I ended up contacting magazines and having my designs put into magazines because they were so different to other quilling. So every time I'd send something off to a magazine, they'd say, how do you do this in quilling? It's like, well, there's the pattern, that's how you do it. They'd always only ever seen flat designs. So I guess people sort of saw that I was doing different things. So yeah, more magazines approached me, and I just started my quilling career, I guess.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and that's when I wanted to find other people that did the same thing, or did quilling. So I put my feelers out, and through a magazine at the time, which was run out of Brisbane and was called Australian Quillers Quarterly, which funnily enough, now you're the Quillers Quarter. So it's amazing. So I found a few other people in Sydney that were quillers, and we met, and all the rest happened.
And so, like, going back to your competition pieces, like, how did it sort of, like, how did you go from like that box and like come up with different ideas to enter different, like,
things just come to me.
Yeah.
They do. They just come to me and I write them down. I have a list in reserve of Easter show ideas, what I will do for future things. And it's also trends as well. You know, like now there's a lot of the on-edge stuff happening. So now I'm dabbling in that as well. But I just get an idea and just go for it. Like the mannequin lady, she was just one of these, oh, I want to do something that's in a human form. And I thought, well, I can't do the human form. The next best thing I can do is dress a human form.
Yeah.
So I have dressmaking skills, so I thought, well, surely I should be able to do this. That just happened.
Amazing. So this was a competition piece?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And there's so many different techniques going on here as well.
There are. Well, that's the thing with competitions. You need to have a lot of technique on the one piece to get more points. So, yeah.
So is this inspired by a particular dress?
I think it was when Moulin Rouge, the movie, came out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I call her my Moulin Rouge lady.
Yeah.
So,
like you're individually cutting each of those bits.
Yeah, they're a bit flopped now, but anyway, they should stand up. But yeah, all the feathers are hand cut. The mask came along after that because I got inspired by theatre and, you know, So there's lots of tangents that I go down, you know.
Yeah. So how would you describe your style? Because you mentioned it was different.
Eclectic.
Fair enough.
I don't really have a style. It's more traditional, the things that I do, because it's traditional shapes put together rather than the modern on-edge sort of style.
Yeah.
It's traditional shapes, but it's not traditional subject matter.
Yeah, okay. So like you see something, you're like, oh, I want to replicate that, or I could do something a bit different here.
Yes,
just go for it.
Yeah, like animals and people, and the Noah's Ark was just, how do I make all these animals out of quilling strips? And I just started and couldn't stop.
So how did it work? Like, did you already have the idea to have the...
I had the box frame. I don't know how I started with animals. I have no idea. I just thought, I've got lots of little slots to put in there, so what can I do? And then, I don't know, I probably went to the zoo with the kids or something and just went, oh, I can do that.
That's so cool.
That was fun. That was really good fun to do.
Oh my God, like there's so much to look at.
When you see them close up, you can see the detail on them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at it at a distance, it's oh yeah, that's just another bit of quilling.
And is this using like 1.5 mil paper? Gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
So intricate.
My inspiration just comes from everywhere. But as far as actually naming a style, I can't. I just flitter from one to the next.
Yeah, because I noticed there's like, you know, you use like different colour combinations. Like it's not like you definitely like this shade of blue with this shade of anything. Like
No. Yeah, the only thing I haven't done, which I really want to try, is monochromatic.
Okay.
So I've never done something just monochrome, which gives you a really big focus on the quilling. It's not, because all the other stuff is eye-catching with the colour.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you look further into it. But when it's monochrome, you've just got to look at the individual pieces.
Yeah. So monochrome's like different shades of a single colour.
One colour.
Yeah. Okay. How cool. Yeah, that'd be an interesting project.
It would. Yeah. Oh, you've inspired me for next year.
That's awesome. This
piece came about because I did a big quill for a competition piece. The rules of the competition were that you weren't allowed to have any supporting substructure. Okay, so I wasn't allowed to have any wire or anything other than paper or card on it. I made this beautiful big quill pen and it stood up.
Yeah.
When the competition was in progress, the humidity came into the room and the quill just died.
Oh no.
So, and I almost died when I saw the piece sitting there all crumpled over, very, very sad looking. Anyway, not one to be defeated. I thought, I am going to do another quill, but how do I do something that's quite different and striking, but it's not going to flop? So hence the laying down quill happened.
That's so cool.
And also found this lovely Indian paper.
Oh, wow.
That's hand stamped. So I kind of really liked that. So I'm always on the hunt for unusual paper.
I love the gold trim. That's beautiful. Yeah. So you got like a scroll.
Just a scroll of parchment. And this is the ink well. That's probably got about 15 strips joined together for half of it.
Wow.
So, and this was made before you could get those mould. You know how you can get the rounded moulds now to put things over? Yeah. That was all done by me pushing my finger in it very, very slightly.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And to get it even. That's amazing.
And don't look too close because it's not all that even. But anyway, not bad for doing it by your fingers.
It's just amazing. Like the more you look at it, the more detail you see. Like all these beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just incredible. And the crimping.
Yeah.
That's really cool. This was the year after the other quill flopped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Funnily enough, feathers just keep reappearing in a lot of my pieces because I've just done something in the future that has thousands of feathers on it.
Well, I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it? Because quilling, that's why it's called quilling. Isn't it? Like, because then people roll it around a quill.
They used to do it on a feather, yes. But I mean, it gets very, very confused with quilling as in porcupine quill art in America as well. Or quilting. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, oh, so you do quilts. No, I don't. I'm even weirder than that. I actually take little strips of paper and make them into things.
That's cool.
I'm not very inventive with my names. Merry-go-round.
Very nice.
My whole inspiration for this was I wanted to be able to do a horse. So after the Noah's Ark, got my mind going, a horse would be really cool. But I was sort of thinking, a horse, I made this horse as a prototype and thought there's no way I can go any bigger than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was the inspiration for the whole thing, is just to do a horse.
Wow. And so it was already a merry-go-round, like carousel music box, and then you decorated
Well, it was a music box as such, and I just decorated it. From that point up is all paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all of the middle of the canopy and everything is all paper.
And is this just like normal, like ribbon? Or is it?
It's gold quilling paper.
Oh, okay.
But it's wrapped around a toothpick.
Ah, yes, okay.
It's a little bit more sturdy.
I think it's just so cool. And I love the colours that you've chosen, like real festival.
They're sort of like antique circus colours, really. Yeah, that's the sort of look I was going for, like the old, in the 1800s where they decorated all their tents and stuff, like they had lots of stripes and gold trimmings on things. And the advertising as well was a lot of the burgundies and rust colours as well. Whether that's from age and they were very bright back then, probably they were very bright back then, but we see them now as being quite muted. So
and then we replicate that, isn't it?
Yeah. There's different sections in the Easter show, so I mainly do things for the Easter show because they take so long to do that I try and enter them in a competition because they take so long to do. So
roughly how long would this one have taken?
Oh, that took me about 3 months.
Right.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Was a lot of that in like the planning and thinking, or was it sort of experimenting as you went, or how did that go?
It was probably even the whole way along. I had the idea, but then actually doing prototypes of things to try and make them work. Being pre my interior design stage, had I done that now, it would have all been drawn up first and calculated and all the rest of it. But I just winged it. Basically, it's like, that shape would look nice there and that shape would look nice there.
And so was that the only horse that you made, or was that?
No, that's the only horse.
So that's the prototype?
That's the prototype, wow. Yeah. if something has worked, don't try and do it again. It worked, so I thought, okay, well, this is going to be now the proportion that I have to do everything else.
Yes, okay. So it started with the horse and then it moved around.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, when having a music box, originally I thought, oh, a nice ballerina or something on the top, like that. And that's what ended up. So I went from a ballerina to a horse to a merry-go-round.
That's brilliant.
So, yeah, the woman of tangents. This piece was inspired by Moroccan tiles. I really love the colours in Moroccan tiles. And I had this box that was specially made for the Quillers Group, actually. One of the ladies, her husband made a whole heap of them and sold them at the Quillers Group. And I had this box sitting in my cupboard for probably 5 years, just waiting for the inspiration to come. What will I put on it? I don't know, I just got really inspired by Morocco all of a sudden. And since having done that, I've been to Morocco. So
so you did this and then went to Morocco, right?
Yeah, I should have done it the other way around, but never mind. Yeah, it's very flat, very flat. The very hard part about this was getting all the shapes identical sizes.
Yeah, to fit in the predetermined.
Yeah. Or, for this panel, to have all of those exactly the same size.
How did you do that? Did you measure each strip?
I measured it out and actually did. This one I did as a grid and worked it out on paper before I did it.
Right.
Because the construction was just, it would end up all over the place. So, but also, as you will know, you never get two pieces that are exactly the same size. For whatever goes on here, there's probably there's a box of ones that were rejects.
Right.
It was phenomenal, yeah.
So that was your very first piece and
Very
standard
first,
of excellence.
Yeah.
And so you'd entered other times in the release to show, but these were standard of excellence.
Yeah, these were two standard of excellence.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when I got that standard of excellence, you didn't get one of these ribbons. And that was my inspiration. I wanted one of these ribbons.
They're very cool.
So now I've got one of those ribbons.
That's awesome. So, tell me the story about how the boxes were made. So that was with the Sydney Quillers Group.
Yeah. One of the ladies there, her husband was working in the men's shed. She put it to him, could you make some boxes? And I'm sure the ladies at the Quillers Group will purchase them. She consulted with him, and they're all exactly 3 millimeters deep, so that the papers fit in really nicely.
So is that inspired from like the Renaissance or the the English quilling?
Yeah.
Boxes
The old tea chests. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, tea boxes and tea chests. Yeah. I don't know how many people that still go to the Quillers Group have one of these, but it would be amazing to get them all together to see the different styles and subject matter that's on them.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
so
it is, yeah. It's really hard to find specially made things for quilling, to put quilling into, because, everything's either made for folk art or painting, and it's very flat. Even frames, you get shadow frames now, but way back when I was doing some of these pieces, the shadow frames weren't even heard of.
Yep.
For accreditation, they give you a set of criteria. You have to have all these different shapes made, and you have a grid that you've got to prove that you can make these shapes in different stages and forms, I guess, so you can have a shape as a loose coil, but a loose coil can come in various different shapes. I did the frame first, but it was very, very flat. So I thought, that doesn't really show them what I can do. Because most of my things that I've done in the past had been three-dimensional. I decided to make this as well, so that they could see that, okay, I can use different shapes and make them into a more interesting piece, I guess. But having said I don't do monochromatic things, I did.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that monochromatic?
I did. No. So these are all shapes that are approved by the Quillers Guild.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they are approved quilling shapes. Didn't throw anything else in there.
And so what flowers are they?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I just went with it.
Like that kind of like looks like a daisy, but I was trying to think what that one.
I don't know. I don't know. They're sort of, it was those cone shapes that I was trying to achieve, and then when I didn't have the centre in them, they just looked a bit odd. So I just kept going with it and putting centres in.
You invented a new flower.
Well, no, I think I've seen something similar, but again, I got feathers.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even realise until we started this interview that I like feathers so much.
And so both of the fascinator and that frame piece, you had to post to
England,
it's called.
Yeah.
And then they judge it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. They judge it, and I think it probably took about 8 months. It was the most nerve-wracking 8 months because coming from here, it had to go at least 6 weeks early so that I knew that it got there on time. Okay, so, and then they do the judging process, which is they get together 3 or 4 accredited quillers. They get together and then judge the pieces, and then they've got to put their feedback together and then send you your, yes, you've passed, or no, you haven't. It was just so nerve-wracking. I'm thinking, I can't have been quilling for this long and not get accredited. This is just crazy.
And so then, do they send you the letter and then they send your pieces back?
Yes.
Or, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Must have been a relief when it arrived.
Well, when they arrived back in one piece, I was quite astounded actually. when you know how post can go.
Yeah. Was that 2018 that you got accredited?
That was 2018.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you. So from 2018, I really haven't done very many pieces.
I sort of, you reach the top, you're like...
Well, not that I've reached the top, but I actually started judging quilling instead of making the pieces for the competitions.
Right.
Apart from this year, 2021, I haven't had to make anything to put into a competition. There's a bit of a gap.
So what got you into like the judging part of the competition?
Oh, I was asked to judge. You can only judge quilling for 3 years at a time because otherwise people know that you're judging it, so they know the style that you like or you know your method of judging, so they swap it around all the time so that you don't become entrenched, I guess. I just got approached because there's not many quillers in Sydney. They'd been through quite a few of the older quillers, so I thought, okay, I'll do it. It means I don't have to do a piece to actually put in, which is really, it's quite scary because I sort of had 25 years of entering the Easter show and then I didn't. And I was like, I felt like a hole in my quilling career, you know, like, but anyway, I'm judging now.
And how do you find judging, like being on the other side, looking at the pieces?
It's really hard because you've got to not think you personally don't like it. Okay, you may see a piece, the subject matter might be something that you really don't like. It could be your least favourite flower, or it could be quite macabre, or you know, like something just not to your taste. And you've got to look beyond that and look at the actual quilling itself, you know, like rather than what the subject matter is. But it's quite a bit of a process, you know, like I didn't have a criteria to go by. The shows that I have judged at didn't give me an actual criteria. You've got to look at form over, you know, and design or colour combinations and all that. So I actually made up my own. It seems to work really well because there's been some Easter shows that I've judged. I've looked at 2 pieces and they're both equally as good as the other. I've had to go back to my points and count up my points to decide a first place.
Wow.
Because someone had one more technique in than the other.
Right. So you're fully judging on like technical delivery rather than like the idea or what they're doing.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. There was a stage in the Easter show where a lot of people who were doing Australian natives were winning. And it was like for 3 years in a row, it was Australian natives that won. Whether the judge really liked Australian natives, I don't know, but it was just one of those really odd things. So I made a conscious effort when I judged not to judge the things that I like, to go by the technique, the execution of the technique, how it's all put together. Can you see glue, the intricacy of some things? Because quilling can be really good in a large form as well. It doesn't have to be really, really tiny, but you've got to make sure that your centres are nice and small, and just little things like that. So yeah, it's a lot harder than you think.
Yeah, gosh.
So yeah.
And so this Easter show coming up, you're judging this one?
No,
you're entering.
No, I'm entering.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I've done it for 3 years now, so someone else has got to have a turn.
Gotcha. So you're back in the game.
Yeah, I'm back in the game. Yeah. Oh, I don't know how I'll go because it's been a while.
What's sort of your most memorable piece? Like, what's one that sticks out in your memory as like, one that was really difficult to make, but you're so proud of it, or, it's just an awesome idea from the beginning? Like, what's
Oh, gee. I guess the original first box would have been my hardest one, because I had 2 young children and I was trying to enter, a competition that had a really high standard. And that box got finished an hour before it went in.
Really?
Yeah.
So what were the last things you were working on?
These fuchsias in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a point where I had everything that I knew I wanted on there, but I was just time poor. I actually went to my sister's house and she looked after my children while I finished that piece off, and then I drove to the Easter show.
Wow.
So that's probably the most memorable, I guess, because all the others are now can time manage a little bit better because my children have grown up, and I don't put the pressures on like I used to. and quite frankly, I probably don't put the detail in, the fine detail like that. I did for the accreditation pieces, but for a lot of other things, it's sort of like it's a superfluous effort, if you know what I mean. You've got pieces there that are really good and they're going to get judged. You don't need to have a lot of little bits, Having said that, you look at Leisha's wreath and there's so many little pieces that,
So would you say that that's your favourite piece, or do you have a favourite piece?
No, that's not my favourite piece. No, I've moved on from cottage flowers. I don't know that I actually have a favourite piece. People keep saying to me, the Moulin Rouge lady, because it was so different, that everyone loves that. And yeah, I like it. Probably the most proud I am of is of the accreditation pieces, because I finally did it. I finally got accredited. I mean, if someone said, which piece would you want to keep forever, I'd probably say that box.
It's got a nice story behind it.
Yeah. They all have a lot of effort put into it, but, they're just material things. So really, I don't really need them in my life. But sort of one of those things, quilling sort of saves you from thinking of other things. I look at this collection more like, this was my downtime. This was my me time. I did something that I was passionate about and got satisfaction from. Yeah, it's more of a therapy than it is. I have to have that to sell. I haven't sold any of my pieces. I just don't think anyone would want them, really.
Or did you not have the inclination? Like, you didn't want to sell them either?
No, I didn't need to sell them because I made them because they were my therapy. There's other things that I've sold. I've sold watercolours, and artwork, and I don't really feel the need to sell my quilling.
Is it also because, like, watercolours and your other art that you've sold, it's easier, like you can do it in a couple of days, whereas this is so much more time intensive?
Yeah, you can't put a price really on the amount of time that you put into it. I don't think people would spend $500 on a paper mache box,
Yeah. But then, like, you've gifted some of your pieces as well. Like, I remember you sent the On Edge typography.
Yes.
And so that's like giving a huge gift of time to someone.
Yeah. For wedding presents and things like that, I have done that.
That's
or christenings. Really cool. People get a buzz out of it, and I feel like I'm cheating them of something, really, because, like, I'm doing it for me and I'm giving it to them because it's part of their life, but it's sort of like, didn't cost me a lot.
Yeah.
So
Materials didn't cost much,
no,
but the time.
Yeah, the time. Yeah. I think most artists are the same. They just think, I don't really have to sell that. And I don't know whether it's because the time that goes into it is precious, and you go, oh, I don't want to part with it, or it's more, I don't think anyone thinks it's worthy of actually displaying, because what can you do with something that's paper? It's so fragile. Unless you put it in an acrylic box or something, so that or Perspex box, so that you can display it somewhere. It's got to be stashed away. Although, there are artists around that are making huge wall hangings and stuff.
Like your big fan?
Yeah. Yeah, the big fan came about from the Easter show again, a special display that was fantastic. This watch came about because my sister's very much into folk art, and she found watches that you could put folk art in. I purchased a few and thought, okay, I wonder if I can do quilling to fit within that space. And they are all made with 3mm or 1.5mm. The fringed ones are fringed 3mm paper.
Wow.
Probably as intricate a work as you can get.
Yeah.
Really. It's one of those things that someone saw it on me and then, where did you get that watch from? So then another thing, which is really good with the Quillers Group, I went there with this on, and we ended up having to buy about 20 of these watches so that people could make their own personalised watch. So, yeah. That's a really good thing about the Quillers Group. So, yeah.
Those ideas.
It's probably a bit dated now. I'm not sure that I'd wear pink flowers anymore, but, at the time, I've made brooches and like other jewellery as well. That was one of my first jewellery pieces.
Very cool.
This clock,
that's very cool.
This was just after making the box. Yeah, so obviously I was in a cottage garden phase. Yeah, it was just all the cottage garden flowers. I guess the shape of the clock actually depicted what I was going to do, really. Just make it the front of a little cottage garden of a house. And funnily enough, all the numbers are on edge.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're very ahead of your time.
Look at that. And so is the little vent at the top there. It's all on edge as well. But way back then, that on edge would not be judged as part of quilling, because on edge wasn't considered quilling back then.
You've mentioned the Sydney Quillers quite a bit.
Yes.
And I wanted to make very clear that you're a founding member of the Sydney Quillers Group.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Back in
1996.
1996. So what made you decide to start the Sydney Quillers Group?
We, as I was saying before about the Australian Quillers Quarterly, there was a few of us from Sydney who subscribed to that magazine, and they did a picnic in Brisbane. Every year they would do a picnic and where quillers came together and met each other. The three of us from Sydney decided we would have a picnic. So we put a date out there and had a picnic in a park up in Sydney. I think there was about 10 people came to it, but three of us decided that we would start to meet on a regular basis. We just went to each other's houses to start with, just to, we decided once every 3 months was enough. We'd catch up with what was going on in the quilling world and show each other what we were doing. Eventually, we did it 3 or 4 times, and then people would say, well, can I come along? And it just outgrew our homes.
Right.
It's one of the other founding ladies. She was teaching crafts at a little hall in Canley Vale. So she said, I'll see if we can hire that hall on a Sunday. So, and that's when it all started. Probably about 15 to 20 people started to come. We outgrew that hall, went to another scout hall in Panania and outgrew that hall and moved to the senior citizens hall in Panania. Actually, I think they overbooked us or something. Something happened, a church group wanted it every Sunday or something, so we couldn't do it anymore. So that's when we ended up at Reevesby. So a progression of over time. But yeah, it's grown from us 3 people meeting to now we've had 45, 50 people at meetings when we were at Panania.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
A nice community.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about sharing quilling ideas. We have a demonstration every time because we want people to get something out of the meeting. It started out, it was the demonstration of people showing what their area of expertise was. We've sort of like been through that now. So we've got to try and do other things. Just coming up with new ideas or techniques is another way that we sort of get around the demonstrations. Now that there's this on-edge new technique out, that's sort of came to the forefront in 2019. We sort of got thinking, this is the way that quilling is going to progress, because it's bringing young people into the craft. Leisha and I, Leisha's not a founding member, but she's been there for a very, very long time. We sort of do a lot with the Easter Show and the Quillers Group together. We collaborate a lot, try to get all these new techniques into the older minds, like you can do this. So doing those techniques at the Quillers Group now progresses on to, we've got a new category in the Easter Show for it. It's just one of those progressive things. I still love going to it. Sometimes it's hard because you just can't think of a new thing to demonstrate. And we try and get other people in the group to demonstrate things as well, because there's always quiet little Joan or Betty in the corner that's got a very good way of doing vortex coils or roses or something, but they're very shy and they won't show anybody.
Right.
So we try and draw them out of those little corners and get them to show people.
And so what's been like a particularly memorable experience with the Sydney Quillers, like events that have happened? Like you mentioned, like you've got the boxes, had the watches, and like you have 45, 50 people come. Like, has there been anything that stands out in your memory over the past 25 years?
Actually, being asked to do special exhibitions with the Easter Show, that's been a buzz for us, because we get the Sydney Quillers Group to make things to exhibit. They don't necessarily go and enter the Easter Show. A lot of people don't enter the Easter Show from the group. We try really hard to get them to do it, but they're not confident to do it. So, but they will make little bits and pieces, and then it gets shown in the special exhibitions that they have in that craft hall. That brings the group together, and it brings both the Quillers Group and the Easter Show, which are the two main things in quilling in Australia, together. I think it's really important that a community group gets a say in what they have shown at the Easter Show, which is, it's really nice that the Easter Show have that openness as well, and they want to show not only city people and do country people as well, bringing the country to the city. But the Easter Show and the Sydney Quillers Group really do work side by side a lot, with these special exhibitions.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice thing that you've gotten to know these ladies over so many years.
Yes. It's amazing. Like I was quite young. I was in my 20s when I started the Quillers Group. Actually, one of the other founding ladies will tell you that she said, I remember you coming to my house very pregnant. She thought I was going to have the baby at her house.
Wow.
It's been a long time.
It's been like part of your life.
Yeah. I had a sabbatical 1 year travelling around Australia, so I just couldn't get back for the meetings. And that's when Leisha stepped in.
Okay.
And really took over things, which was really good. So I'm a bit of an old face at the Quillers Group, I'm afraid.
One of the originals.
Yeah.
And do you have like a sort of like a surprising lesson or something that's a piece of wisdom or something that you weren't expecting after being in this group for so many years?
I just get amazed at the different ideas that come through the people there. We've got people from all different nationalities, all different styles, and they will come up and ask one of us, I don't know how to do this, but I'll show you this. This is what I'm doing. And it just amazes me that people have got beautiful, beautiful pieces, but they just don't have the self-confidence to show them to anybody else. Like they'll show them to one of the older members of the group, but they won't display it. But also just the cultural way of using colours, it opens up a whole new world. The community part of it is really, really important to me, to because I've known some of these ladies for 25 years, watching them grow in their quilling has been a really big plus. And that's growing as just a group, because now people know who we are.
Yeah.
Originally it was just, the three people meeting at each other's houses, and probably one of our big coups was being asked to go to craft shows and demonstrate at craft shows.
That's how I discovered you guys.
Yeah. So it's you think, oh, but it's just quilling. Who wants to know how to do that? But we get people, come up and saying, oh, that's amazing. How do I try this? So yeah, we've had lots of people come from craft shows to the group.
You enjoy the group. It's been good.
Oh yes, yeah. Sometimes it's been very hard, but you get over that.
Yeah.
I try and stay positive with it. It gets to the stage though that you think, oh, I've been in it now. It's coming up to 25 years.
Yeah.
It's just think, oh, am I a bit stale? Is it a bit stale from me? That's why we try to bring new faces in all the time. And just recently, you've started. So that's been great. But we've had other people that are really, really enthusiastic about quilling, which is really, really nice for me to see, because we get a lot of older ladies who do this as a hobby, and that's great. And they love the social side of the group. But that's not going to put quilling out there into the world. The younger people, that are now doing it, and you're doing your blog, which is fantastic. And there's another lady who goes on lots of holidays and trips around the world, and she takes a little bit of quilling with her everywhere and shows people how to quill.
Yeah, it's so
cool. I'm all for just promoting the craft.
Putting it back on the map.
Yeah. Because there's guilds there. There's the American Guild and the English Guild, and they're known in those two countries. But as far as the rest of the world goes, there's ancient or antique quilling in many, many European countries, but it's not a really popular craft. We need to get it out there.
Yeah. Because you mentioned previously that you're thinking about starting an Australian guild.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But yeah, it's a lot of logistics, and it just proved to me it was in the too hard basket. Actually, we've sort of got a little mini guild ourselves, being the Sydney Quillers Group, and nothing's formal. Every time I bring up, should we formalise this? You have to register as a charity, and you have to, have all different government regulations and all the rest of it. My sister actually started a guild, the Friends Through Folk Art Guild. So I saw what she had to do to do that. I thought, it's a lot of time and dedication.
Yeah, for hobbyists at the moment.
Yeah. I don't know, someone might want to take it on in the future. I'd certainly join it.
Yeah.
So, but at the moment, the Quillers Group, the Sydney Quillers Group, is sort of what a lot of people consider the Australian Guild, whereas we don't have to worry about too many formalities.
Yeah. It's nice and relaxed, chilled way of doing it.
Yeah. We still get asked to do, various different things, but because we're not a registered entity, it does stop us from doing some things at craft shows, for example, like in insurance and all that sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
It can get a bit complicated, which is why I didn't want to go down that track.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, cool. What is your favourite quilling tool?
My favourite quilling tool would have to be a needle tool. But of recent, like for that box, I quill on a pin, a sewing pin, like a beaded pin, just so I can get very, very tiny centres. But I reckon the two most important tools to have are a needle tool and a fine tip glue. And with that, you can do anything.
Yep. And everything else, like even like the dome thing, you didn't need it, but it's nice to have.
Only recently, because I've got a shoulder injury, I've recently purchased one.
Oh, wow.
I purchased one of those kits that you get on Amazon. It's like, and it had an electric tool on it as well, because I can't sit there and do the turning of my wrist anymore. So I've succumbed to technology, I'm afraid. Only just. Maybe in a few years I'll go back. Yeah.
And what would you say is your favourite quilling technique?
Clearly feathers.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've got feathers on everything.
Yeah, even the fish kind of have feathers.
Fringing must be it.
Yeah, so fringing and feathers.
It must be, yeah.
And what project are you currently working on?
There's a special exhibition happening at the Easter show this year, which was for last year but got cancelled from last year.
Oh, yeah.
They're hoping that is going to go ahead this year. We have some pretty big things happening with that in the quilling world. I've made a life-size mannequin with lingerie.
Wow, okay.
That's my biggest piece.
Nice. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I can give you a sneak peek.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy. This
You're most welcome.
Really interesting, awesome chat learning about the history of all your pieces and how you stumbled upon it with your nana giving you a quilling kit.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? You know,
and how it's led you to create
little things, big things grow.
Definitely. Like you've created a group that's essentially like the de facto quilling guild of Australia.
Yeah.
You know, you've brought a massive community together. Like I found you through this guild that you've created. Like it's awesome what you've created. Not just the art, but just the people that you bring together.
Yeah, well, it's not only me, it's all the others as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good fun.
Yeah, so. And I think you've got a really interesting style, whatever that style is.
Yeah, I don't know what the style is, but yeah, maybe someone who sees this can define my style.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this interview with Wendy Verity. I really enjoyed our chat and I hope you did too. Maybe Wendy has inspired you to try a new idea. See if you can incorporate some feathers into your designs. Since filming this interview in February, the Sydney Quillers Group have set up their feature display for the Royal Easter Show, and it includes Wendy's incredible feather lingerie piece with the thousands of hand-cut white paper feathers. It also includes the cockatoos made by Leisha Politis, which you may actually remember from my interview with Leisha last year. It has all come together and it will be a fantastic Easter show and I'm really looking forward to it. But I will leave you now with some of Wendy's other beautiful quill creations. Thanks again for watching and see you next time. Goodbye.